Okay, I just made a video, and whilst procrastinating, it started out with me just talking to myself, and ended up, because some of the things I was saying, I was like, gosh, I'd really like to remember this. And then I was influenced by this, by by a few other YouTubers who had made videos talking about non-verbal disability disorder, actually Asperger's disorder, non-verbal disability disorder. In fact, YouTube has taken up many hours of my life for various reasons, but I won't get into that. The thing that I was talking about to myself, because I just started, I wanted to hear what was going on in my head a bit clearer. There is a lot I can talk about here, but I'm just going to talk about what's relevant to the other video that I've just made spontaneously, and decided that I'm going to make this video to go along with that, because it starts off like midway. Like, you don't really understand what I'm talking about. But I didn't want to delete it either, because it kind of broke the barrier to keeping it started a chain of reaction that is beginning to break a barrier of keeping everything to myself. Sorry, I'm always looking up. I have a problem with articulation and phonology and semantics, like everything. So that's what I was talking to myself about. Because I have this problem. There are several reasons why this problem might be there, and I was trying to externalize the voice going on in my head, the thoughts going on in my head, the voice. So, say if I'm sat down writing, I would start saying to myself what I'm thinking, or what is the bulk of what I'm thinking in relation to what I'm writing. Because usually what happens in silence or in randomly generated noise, like I don't know where the source is coming from, like if I have this thing in my bathroom that makes noise, I think it's like to clear the steam when I'm bathing. I shower, so. But when I turn on the light, it automatically goes on. And I'm really confused for like 5 seconds before I realize I've just turned the light on, so therefore that thing that makes noise when I turn the light on is the source of the noise. Yeah, I should find out what it's called, but I think you know what I mean. So another problem that causes is around people, obviously, and my ability to tell what a person's tone of voice is indicating to me. I recently found out, well, there are a few things I found out. I think there are many things I found out, but in relation to these kind of sensory disturbances and time, spatial, temporal issues, non-verbal learning disability and VLD, and visual agnosia, or I can't even say it right now. Prosopagnosia. Okay. But it's kind of like facial agnosia, and it's more specific because it's more to do with facial recognition and identification. Prosopagnosia. Yeah. Prosopagnosia. So another thing actually that I was reading about was covert narcissism, and actually narcissism in the past as well. So that kind of relates to this, because the way they dovetail the symptoms, from what I remember, I will try and go through these individually in video instead of kind of lumping them all together, just because I'm trying to clear my head. The way it kind of plays out with senses and symptoms, or really how an outsider would observe it, depending on the individual's experiences, environment, because there's epigenetics and there's genetics and there's you've got biological and you've got physiological, and it kind of really fragments down to a lot of sub fields, but obviously everything being interconnected, I just play associations in my mind all the time, and that is what this little voice does uncontrollably. So what I started talking about, if I remember correctly in the other video, was something along the line of being washed over by a liquid. Yeah. What I was saying was that if I don't keep up with the sounds going on in my head, they end up controlling me. It's not like multiple personality disorder. Like, I don't know, maybe it is, I've never had a psychologist take me seriously enough to get a diagnosis of anything. I'm seeing one now, but that is still... I'm also being referred to a neurologist, so I think that might be more promising than having somebody look at the outside, the manifestation of the cognitive impairments or cognitive differences, and the kind of neurological or neuroplastic features relating to neuroplasticity, that kind of go along with the development of, these sensory issues, is what I mainly term them, from my experiences in an educational environment, in a social environment, and also in a health context. So that's all good topics for discussion in a future time. So it started out me in the kitchen, and I started saying everything I was doing because that made it easier for me to... I think there was one time I had I put ash in my cup that I was drinking from instead of the ashtray, and just little things like that, like spilling something because I forgot there was water in it, just a really bad working memory. And really not being able to identify visual, non-verbal things, or identify say in my work, I could know the answer, or I could know the method, etc. But then I can't order things, or it takes me longer and it's laborious for me to order things. And before, in the past, I used to compare myself, and I used to kind of think, what is wrong with me? Like, why is everything like 200 times more? I feel kind of, I want to say robotic, or like everything needs a strategy, but then obviously life, it's not strategically laid out, and like it's not linear and predictable. Emotions not predictable, like yeah, I smoke, sorry. So I just had some people in my head, voices come in and say, you smoke, like from people I've interacted with. And that's another thing, actually. I will remember conversations, like I might not remember the exact meaning of a conversation, but sounds and conversations and motion, in a way, like my memory for those are, I want to say outstanding, but I've never measured myself up against, like I've never had a comparison, direct comparison. So, but my visual, although my visual memory is good, just as my audio and my kinesthetic, my olfactory memory and my tactile memory is good. My olfactory and my olfactory memory is not. It's very weak, actually. In fact, my mum was born without the ability to smell, and there's lots of conditions associated with the inability to smell. I think one of hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's disease. I think that's associated with it, and I definitely am there in the spectrum somewhere. Like, I have thyroid issues. In a sense, like, before I started supplementing for thyroid issues, it's close enough to saying I could not smell. I could smell, but I could not differentiate between smells. Does that make sense? So I would know whether a smell was bad or good, whether I wanted to move towards it, away from it, but I wouldn't be able to tell you A, where the smell was coming from, and B, what it smelled like comparison to something else. So if the air smelled slightly of cheese and slightly of perfume, like I wouldn't be able to tell there was two different smells unless I smelled the perfume on its own, and the only thing I would be able to realize was that it smelled slightly off, like it wasn't the same smell. Basically, I had smelling difficulties. And my visual, I'm really bad at this, and I still kind of debate whether it's my left brain or my right brain. I don't think it's either. I think it's a combination of both, and it's probably more to do with white matter and grey matter. yeah, my visual memory is something on the line of photographic, but it's definitely gotten weaker as I've gone older, because there is so much visual content in there now that I'm just like, I don't know, maybe that's why. But in day-to-day life, like my working visual memory and my visual recognition abilities are just dire. It's almost like it's only on one side though. That's why I'm really perplexed, and I can't. The right side of my face has no expression. I don't know if you can see in the video, but I have been able to tell, and I have this problem with like around my trigeminal muscles here. I have this problem, and my jaw is kind of like crooked to the left, and I hear it click whenever I extend it, like when I yawn or when I go. Like, if it was a line, it would look like this. That to me feels better, but clearly my face hasn't adapted that way, and when I look to the left, I have like an acute visual blind field, and sometimes my left eye twitches as well, and my right side has a sort of paralysis. I'll just give you an example: raising my eyebrows or expression. If you can tell the difference, I don't know. There is more agility in this side of my face than on this side. And when I raise my eyebrows, I can raise my left one fine. See? That's my puzzled face. No, but I can't raise my right one at all. Like, it just doesn't happen. Like, they both go up. Sometimes I try to like raise on its own and then do this. And then when I let go, it just goes back down because I can't control that side of my face. And most of the times I can't feel it, which is really strange. I think even when I'm talking, this side tends to stay more stiff or less. I don't know. And I have a stigmatism with my eyes and really weird abilities, like I just do what I want with my loose cannon eyeballs. Okay, I'm just gonna finish up this video so then I can get back to doing what I was doing, because it's almost time for me to eat. But around other people, I don't know whether they notice this or not, but it seems as if everything happens too fast for me. Because I don't understand non-verbal cues, my thoughts, my internalized part of my mind because it remembers everything. I think that's even worse. I don't know whether it remembers everything because it doesn't make sense of it, or it doesn't make sense of it and it remembers it, so then it's constantly trying to make sense of it. But then I'm always trying to figure out, what does that mean? Like, sometimes I ask myself, like, what difference would it make to me if I actually knew what it meant? Would I have some form more control, like more power? And this just happens automatically. But the biggest impact it has had is that it caused me to react. I was saying earlier when I was speaking, like, if you don't act, you react, and every interaction kind of cascades, and then, like dominoes, like the interfaces will kind of be the sum to all of the outcome. I don't know if I'm sure that if you're able to follow. So it's like, say you feel scared and you're panicking or having panic attacks, but then you deny it to yourself, so then you kind of bottle it up. That energy is trapped, blocked from flowing freely because everything just, honestly, everything is charged. Everything has its own way of manifesting, like a natural course of action, you could say. So if it's repressed, it's made subconscious or whatever, you either regress, or you have a few options, but some of those are regressing, reacting, which is, I guess, is kind of a form of regression, but it really depends on the narrative that you give the energy, the occurrence, or whatever your arbitrary unit is. So I did a lot of that, and we probably don't have time to go into much more in this video, but I think that should kind of connect the dots between what happened in that last video, or in the other video that I post, and what that was about. So I'm just gonna get it out there, because I found that getting it out there is much better than keeping it in. I want to say here, but keeping it in. And it's also like, because these problems don't really come out when I write. Well, actually they do, but in a different way, that kind of takes some decoding, demystifying to recognize, and it's only a trained observer. If you're unknowledgeable, then you probably won't notice. And I don't know whether anyone is aware unless they're made aware, obviously. And I think everybody tends to think that, I mean, we know realistically that everyone's not the same as us, but then when it comes to application, like the narrative we give ourselves about our lives and why we do what we do, like thinking that we know our minds better than our mind knows us, like we can control things, we are number one in the universe and all this stuff. When it comes down to that, I think people have a natural tendency to think that, to not be able to see how other people's functions differ, and that's not through any fault of their own, it's just how the human mind is. So I'm gonna leave it there, and I hope you guys enjoy or have learned something or take something away from watching this. I'll try and break down more into finite specific areas of that I've mentioned in this video, areas of particular interest, and I hope I wasn't too distracting, but and I hope you guys have a nice day.